hair? Do you want extra money for bills, trips, extracurricular activities for your kids, or do you want to replace your entire income? Mane is the answer. Our products are Leaping Bunny certified, vegan, and Mane can be used by anyone, including your kids and pets. Message me on my Instagram to partner with me. Founder shares are available, and as a market partner, you have access to uncapped bonuses, 45% commission, 35 to 55% off discounts, on top of all-inclusive paid trips. Right now, I also have a free gift for anyone that partners with me, so don't miss out. You can message me on my Instagram at LizChilvers87.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email john@nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Ray. That is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And as a little bit of a surprise, not just for you out there on this pre-recorded show, but for the three lads who joined us on screen tonight, cue the music. It is a big welcome back to Burra Mag. How are you, son?
Evening, gentlemen.
Hello, Burra Mag.
Is this how on earth is this still on air? I thought you'd have been long gone by now.
He's right up when you left.
Just for those out there who tune into the show, lots of people always ask how Joe is he okay? Me and Joe kept in touch. Work took him away from the channel. He unfortunately had to go off and do his proper job and just couldn't commit to doing the shows on a regular basis. He didn't want to do a part-time job. And he says, can I ring you when if I can come back? Can I give you a bell? Yeah, do it. So we've kept in touch. So Burra Mag, son of the great Lenny, is back. And we thought it was a great time to bring him back, especially with England getting to the final. So he has got a tip for us for the final. And unfortunately, Joe is on call tonight with us having a pre-record on a Thursday. Fridays are now blocked out and he can do every Friday again, which is great. But we've got him here and he is on call. So in case the dreaded phone rings, Joe, I am going to give you your chance to give us a little, give us your tips for the weekend, because England, of course, were favourites for the competition going in. we're favourites going into this competition to win it. And I guess we were all going, not a chance in hell, especially the way we started. But lo and behold, here we are, Sunday night, we take on Spain. Where are we at with the odds, Joe?
Yeah, I shall let you know. Only I could return back to the great NUFC matters, couldn't I, and then say it to Steve, but I am on call and I'll probably have to go at some point. So I will apologise in advance, people, but yeah, it's good to be back. Some things never change. So in terms of the final, as you say, Steve, unbelievably, may I add, England are playing Spain on Sunday night, which I didn't think after the first couple of games we'd be saying. Spain are the favourites. They're unbeaten, and naturally so. They've battered everybody they've played. They are 6-4 to win the game. England, though, are 5-2. And if you think it's coming home, I get on that now, because I don't think that's a bad price at all. And the draw after 90 minutes is 9-5. You know, a lot of people are kind of wondering if we'll get a 0-0 draw after 90 minutes, 1-1 possibly. If you do fancy both teams to score, that is a tempting evens. So again, I'd possibly get on that early as well, because France did have chances against Spain, and we know they're likely to score against us. Harry Kane and Alvaro Morata lead the way when it comes to the anytime goal scorers. You can get favourites for that, evens for that. Sorry, they are the favourites. Interestingly, Bukayo Saka is 4-11, and Declan Rice, who just every now and again pops up with Summit, is 14-1. So why not? There's a couple of tune links if any of these guys get a game. Jose Perez is on the list at just under 3-1. Mickey Marino, who continues to be a great player, and I always wonder if he'd have still been around. He's 6-1. Kieran Trippier, who I don't think will feature, is 18-1. And they've got Anthony Gordon at 5-1. But I'll give you 80-1 if he manages more than 3 seconds on the park. 0-0, 11-2. 1-0 Spain is the same price. 2-1 Spain, 9-1. But if you think it's coming home, you can have 13-2 for 1-0 England. And 2-1 England is a massive 10-1. So put your smart money on it.
Good stuff. Good to have you back, Joe. I know you're going to hang around in case you get a call low. Just depart, mate. You know how to do it. Great to have you back on the show. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people smiling out there. And yeah, lots to talk about. It is, of course, still the close season. The transfer window is open. But the bombshell that we had, I guess, this week, which at the time of us pre-recording this show on the 11th, on the Thursday, hasn't been confirmed by the club, hasn't been confirmed by Amanda and Mehrdad, but it is that they are to depart Newcastle United, Steve, and that they are on their way out of the door. So what did you make of the news? Is it going to be one of those moments where you knew where you were when Kennedy was shot, you knew where you were when Amanda and Mehrdad left?
I think it might well be for an awful lot of Newcastle fans, Steve. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people on social media said that they could see it coming. I think we all knew that it was an end game. Certainly, us three on the top line here knew that there was always going to be an exit strategy that would be introduced. But I don't think any of us expected it to come in July of 2024. I don't think we expected it to come so soon after the statement released in April that said they were very happy here. Don't take notice of what you see put up on Company's House, etc., etc. So I think if everybody is honest, it's come as quite a shock and quite a surprise. I think probably a surprise more than anything else. And I think there'll be an air of disappointment. The main thing to say, Steve, first of all, is that nobody knows why this statement has come out. It seemed to be Craig Hope that broke the story. That was the first one I saw anyway, and I know it was immediately caught up on by the rest of the newspapers, the Sun, the Athletic, various TV pundits, that they all had their 5 pennyworth within a matter of minutes. Whether they were all feeding off the one story or not, I wouldn't like to hazard a guess at. But it did come as quite a surprise. And as you say, no statement from the club. I suppose what we also have to look at is, well, none of us really know the reason for it. we could speculate till the cows come home. We could say that there's been a falling out here, there's been a falling out there. We could say that it was pre-planned. We could say that there's been a night of the long knives. There's all sorts of things that people have been speculating on already. But the truth is that until we hear from Mehrdad and Amanda, nobody knows what the rationale is for them moving away from Newcastle United. What we do know is that they'll leave a massive hole. They're going to walk away with the heads held high. Can't even say it now. Heads held high. They're going to walk away with the thanks of the entire Geordie nation, as Sir John Hall would call us, the Toon Army. Everybody, before they came, I don't think very many people knew about them. The stories, start to spin out that they were interested in buying the club, and then it was all off, as we all know. That's all history. But they are now very much steeped in Newcastle United folklore for the rest of their days, aren't they? That's the first thing to say. Where does it leave us? Well, big shoes to fill. That's the first thing I would say. We've now got the 4 apostles, although I think we've only got a Peter and a Paul in our list of apostles. I don't think the apostles had a John and a Darren and a Brad. But now we're in the situation where Peter Silverson and Paul Mitchell and Brad Miller and Darren Eales have now got to take up the mantle. And if I'm perfectly honest, they've got to now earn our trust, the trust of the supporters, because obviously we could perhaps take Paul Mitchell out of the equation slightly because he's only been here a week. We could take Brad Miller out of the equation so much as he's only been here 6 weeks. But certainly Peter Silverson and, more importantly, Darren Eales as the CEO, who's been here for nearly as long as Mehrdad and Amanda, now have to step up to the plate. I think Mehrdad and Amanda, certainly Amanda, were very much the voice and the face of Newcastle United when it came to the fans. And now the quiet man, who has said very, very little in his tenure so far, other than opening the odd shop and cutting the odd ribbon, now has to step up the plate and represent Newcastle United worldwide. So I think big shoes to fill. I think they're all unproven, certainly unproven at Newcastle United. We could turn around and say that Silverson's proved somewhat in terms of the commercial deals that he brought in, but I don't know how much he was in them or not. And now, obviously, we need an awful lot more commercial deals. And if Mehrdad and Amanda were involved in anything, that's now going to responsibility passing to the commercial team forthwith. So lots to fill, lots to bring forward. And just at the point where we were thinking, you know what, transfer window, we've got through the profit and sustainability window. Now We're into the main transfer window. That's what we're going to be concentrate on from now till September. And it's not. We're now being absorbed in moves, changes, and whether that changes for change's sake, whether it's strategic or whatever. There's nothing worse going into a season when the top of the office has been shaken up, and you're still waiting for the lower down part of the office to fill its boots with new signings and transfers in and out. So I think all in all, it's going to be an interesting period for Newcastle United, and a one that I didn't expect we would be talking about this time in July, Steve. I thought maybe he's having this conversation in 18 months, 2 years' time.
Yeah, it's a strange one. And like I say, this is a pre-recorded show. Thursday, we're doing this. So there may well, in the 24 hours before you see this show, there may well have been an announcement. So we will have to wait and see. Mitch, it is strange timing. I loved Steve's expression there of a potential night of the long knives. We hope that isn't the case. We hope that it's something completely different. But I have to reiterate, and you and I have done that on our 2 Magpie Musings videos, where essentially, we just have to wait and see. They get our best wishes. We've known these people for the whole involvement and interest in Newcastle, the subsequent takeover, we've had an involvement with them, albeit quite small in recent months and years, but those initial contacts, we spent a lot of time getting to know these people and what they were all about. And we can certainly stand up and say that they were genuine people. We can say that they were genuine, they were people of their word. And, I'd just like to think that this is just progression and, that there is some sensible reason behind it. But the silence that we've had up until 10-6 this Thursday night isn't conducive to common sense, and it just simply leads to rumour, speculation, and cynicism on behalf of the thinking supporters out there.
Something that the club's not excelled at of late for me is letting situations like this develop their own narrative through a vacuum. And that's exactly what's already happening. Is that the vacuum of information is already allowing speculation, tittle-tattle, Frank making things up, appearing on social media and more. And that's difficult. For me, you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the surprise for me is timing. If this was another 2 year down the line, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid.
No.
It's the timing is the bit that it's the why now. And that then opens questions about, well, is it tied in with the whole scramble, the PSR scramble? Has somebody seen something and thought, we can't be operating in this haphazard way? We've now got people in certain roles who are football people to do certain things, and therefore these jobs need to be dished out amongst them, and we need to take out the non-football elements of it, and we need to be dealing with it in a very different way. That will be one scenario. They were always going to step aside eventually. That was always part of the plan. That's quite clear. As fans, we lose figureheads. We lose the people who sold with a dream and kept the dream going. How many hours did we spend in Zoom meetings like this, various screens, in various time zones, discussing things when everybody thought it was dead and we knew it wasn't? And who did keep it going? Well, they did. They kept everybody at the table. And so for them to step aside now, as Steve's alluded to, those people who now come in, I mean, God knows how many acronyms we're going to have by the end of next week. And it's CEO, a COO, a CFO, a B&Q, and a bloody MOUSE. But either way, that is the way most clubs do it. But what they haven't got yet in some individuals is the trust of the fans, the way Amanda and Mehrdad did. That connection is so very important at our club. And therefore, somebody very quickly needs to be stepping up to fill that vacuum too. Yeah. My criticism of Darren Eales of late has been very much he's a good news person. And he'll come to an event and sing the Blading Races and buy everybody a pint. But where is he when it's bad news? And how does he handle himself in those situations? And where's the connection to the fans that allow him to do that? I might sound like nitpicky at the minute, but I think what we're seeing is it's not so much the end of the honeymoon period, it's the end of the beginning. It's the end of that phase that we knew would always happen. But the bit that still remains for me is, but why now? Why is it being decided that this is now the time to do this? It now makes sense of a few of the company's house things that were bouncing around, particularly the memorandum signed by the chairman that basically said PIF can put in as much money as they want and the rest of the shareholders don't have to anymore. That was clear. Something big was changing in ownership structure when that was provided, because Amanda and Mehrdad's shareholding was being diluted to 6% as it is already. And so the next question is, what happens to the Reuben brothers? Do they help to absorb some of that 6%, and then and how engaged and how involved does Jamie Reuben stay, and what role does he carry as the Rubens representative on the board going forward? Because he seems to have developed a close relationship with Mehrdad in particular.
Yeah.
And so again, that leaves an area where there shouldn't be, but there could be personal problems which then interfere with the running of Newcastle United, which is, that shouldn't be the case. What I hope comes out of this is that we have an organised group of individuals with clear defined roles who have football base in where they come from when decisions are made, and who are prepared to sit with the Premier League and be a different face in Newcastle United, not be one who's prepared to give them a handshake or a cuddle. Maybe it's ones who are prepared to tell them to F off every now and again and do it in the right way. Do they have the inclination to do so? Or are they football people who will want to keep football relationships ahead of the benefit of the club? Because what I wouldn't want to see us become is quick to bow to the knee to the Premier League. Because I know after all the struggles they had, that would be one of the last things Amanda and Mehrdad would ever want to do. In fact, there's times I think they've really wanted to take the fights to the Premier League and have been persuaded to cool their jets a little bit. So it's an interesting time, and good luck to those trying to fill the void and the vacuum. And that's for me is when you see little things going on within the club that are clearly internal power struggles in certain areas. When you see sometimes how communication with the fans hasn't always been brilliant, and now we'll lose the people who are the figureheads of trust in that, how the club go about filling that void, replacing that connection to the fan base, will be very interesting for me. And with regards to Amanda and Mehrdad, my God, after everything, you cannot just say anything other than thank you very much and wish them all the best in the future. We've seen the highs and the lows. I remember it got to a point coming onto a Zoom call like this, you could see from body language, particularly in Amanda, whether it was going to be a call where we're walking away with a smile on my face or a call where we're walking away with more concerns and furrowed brows, because the body language was I tell you what, I bet you'd be a rubbish poker player.
You did tell her that.
It's like, you join a call and she'd be just about dancing and you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one.
Without giving away anything personal, I just loved their interaction between the two of them.
Yes.
And that's what really made me,
yes.
I was privileged enough to go down, meet them at the house and a couple of times and meet the people behind them. And I made a point on my Magpie Musing yesterday of just reiterating that it was a team. There was a team of people who worked behind them to make the takeover happen. And yes, they were the figureheads. Yes, they were the ones who were the face of the takeover, and they were a welcome face. But I don't think anybody can ever forget how important it was at times to do a few things for them, and the supporters did. The trip to London that we helped facilitate, and a big thanks to Johnny Allen, who was a big part of that, facilitating the bus, taking the stick off people on social media, people saying that they're ripping the fans off, and it was a farcical idea. That was at the request of Amanda. They said it was important. We went down. Holly, who used to be on the channel, was only, a young lass, but she was brave enough to go down and hand something in at Downing Street and give a speech outside the gate to Downing Street, something that she'll probably remember for the rest of her life. And it was very, very important, all of that kind of period. And it came with Amanda and Mehrdad's blessing. And a big shout out to Keith Patterson, because he was on the flip side. He was on the other side of the fence. He was the one who was, liaising with not only did he write that infamous letter, but he was liaising with Keith Bishop and other people on the, on the Mike Ashley side, and we were liaising with Keith, and there's lots going on. And people say, "Will you do a book? Will you do a book?" I mean, we've all made notes, we've all written stuff down, and the idea was to originally do a book, but it may happen, it may not happen. Is anybody interested in the politics of Newcastle United? Do people read books anymore? And speaking as a self-publisher and somebody who set my own company up and done lots of books, said that book sales aren't exactly flowing. Do people read Kindles? I know I'm sidetracking here a little bit, but the point I'm trying to make is there really the thirst for that kind of book? I'm releasing a book for somebody this year, which I've helped put together, about the entertainers. I think there's a reasonable chance people will buy that to look back at yesteryear on a wonderful period and listen to the interviews we've conducted with some wonderful, wonderful players of yesteryear. And I think people will buy that. But the politics of a takeover and the farcical takeovers that we were involved in that never had a cat and hell's chance of going through, I think there's lots of angles to it, and we know there is. And yeah, I think we'll continue to make our notes. It's I always said it would be nice to bring it out if Newcastle, or when Newcastle win a trophy, and maybe that's the time to do it. But I think it'll be a low print run. But I think most people on NUFC Matters would probably want to read it, and a few of our detractors would probably want to read it as well. But we'll wait. We'll come to George. George, we always respect your opinion on these matters, and you're such a great guy and somebody who's got a wonderful knowledge of our football club, and I know you think of Amanda and Mehrdad highly, and you've spoken in recent weeks just about how important they are and how they've been to the club. What was your thoughts when you heard the news that potentially they could be leaving the club, and the timing of it, George?
Well, the timing and the announcement was I've got to confess, was devastating. I'm not saying that I didn't realise it was going to happen. Yes, I think we all knew on this platform. We've talked about the fact that the shares were going and all of that sort of thing, that something like this was going to happen, but not now. I think one of you said, if it'd been a couple of years' time, we'd all been saying, yeah, that's it's gone according to plan, as it were. There seems to be a plan. So it was, I don't mind admitting, was devastating. I had to read it more than once to make sure that I was reading it right. It's huge sadness. I mean, we're all sitting here quite disturbed by this news. Contrasted how we felt when people like Seymour went, when McKeague went, when Lord Westwood went. Did anybody put the black and white button out then? Did the hell? They were building coffins for most of them. They wanted them gone. That'll never be the case for Amanda and Mehrdad. They did the Rafa trick. They bought into Newcastle and not just Newcastle United. They bought into the whole Tyneside issue and the Geordie issue. And that's always important for people who are going to do well with our club. And they did it. I mean, might not thank me for saying it out loud now, but she's entitled to the credit. No, very few people on Tyneside know that last year, for example, every child in Newcastle United, the Newcastle schools, got free school meals because of Amanda Staveley. £23 million worth of free school meals. Not even a word about it to most people, and yet that was happening. Now that's the kind of work I like. That do it, and somewhere down the line somebody will remember, and you may get a little bit of praise, but showing that it wasn't intended for praise, and that's what they've done all the way through. So yeah, devastating. And I only had one brief contact with Amanda Staveley, and it was when I was coming home from seeing Neil in Dubai, and our paths crossed in the airport on the way back to Tyneside, and she was standing, and and she kind of gave me a sort of a half look, and I could see she was wondering, why I was so interested, and I just said, "I'm Geordie Dentist, Dad."
And that was enough. That was enough. It was enough. But yeah, it devastating at first. I'd hate to think that there's been some sort of night of the long knives. That would be even more devastating to me, because they don't deserve that. If there's been a mistake and they're getting the blame for the shambles at the end of the PFI review, that would be sad, because it's not a way to go out. And I think that was very, very desperate, because there's nobody in there can match them. I mean, I shuddered a little bit when our Neil described Eels as being the man who is the signal blade in races and buy everybody a pint. We've just got rid of him, man. We don't want to bugger back. Ashley the Caller, I think that was Harry's name, and then I'm going to build any statues to him. So yeah, the massive figures to disappear from any football club, but particularly ours, because they bought into the whole Geordie a Tyneside legend stuff, and really meant it. You could see it was sincere. I mean, look what they've done for the women's football team, for example. And she's been behind most of that, and they'll be devastated that she's not around. And you just need to look at how they've progressed. Promotion after promotion once they got involved, and now just a hair's breadth away from being at the top table in women's football. And that would be great as well. And other things as well. The disabled kids, how they've progressed in terms of football. So it hasn't just been all the upfront big stories that they got involved in. They got involved in the little stories as well, and never a turn away to anybody that wanted to say hello or have a photograph. Just absolutely a huge hole when they go. It makes a mess of it might not make a mess, it might make it more obvious. I've been saying on here for a while that I still had a feeling that when the Premier League gets its comeuppance, one of the people that would help to put it right would be Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad, like they did with the golf thing. They get nobody out there gives them a heap of the credit for what happened with the golf. When PGA and the Live Golf hit loggerheads, the whole world saying, "Oh, golf's gone. It's not going to be the same again. It'll never be right." A couple of weeks with them two, and it was sorted. Where everybody was saying it's never going to happen. Well, I still have this thing in the back of my mind that when the wheels come off the Premier League and Masters and his crew are sent somewhere, that it would be Amanda be one of the people who would put it right. So I still think that's a possibility, but I think it's less so if they're departing from Newcastle United. And yes, I again agree with Neil that I've got a sneaking fancy that the inner fighter of Amanda, because clearly she's not a person that takes things lying down. She would really have, I think, in a worst days, would love to have had to go with the Premier League up front, but didn't for the sake of Newcastle United. Devastating, and wish them well. Everything they've done, as I say, you look at all the figureheads that we've had who've departed, and see how many of them would have been putting the flags out for in sadness, but putting the flags out to get rid of them easy. Seymour, Ashley, you name it. There's very few of them, even the modern ones. Some of the ones that did great things. And I hate to say it to him, but that's because I know him. I'm going to say it because he says I've said it to him. The great things John Hall did, and even he at the end, because of the way he messed about with Keegan and all of that, left and the takeover left with Ashley, left a bit of a taste in the mouth. Well, you can't say that about Amanda and Mehrdad. They go. With the lads have said, go with our blessing and good luck to wherever they do. The other thing that did worry me when I first heard it was how is Amanda's health? because it's no secret that she has a health problem, and that it is that. Please God, it's not something to do with that, but it wouldn't be surprised if it was, because it's not an easy problem that she's got. So yeah, the biggest sadness for me is that 2 adopted Geordies who bought into the whole Geordie scene have departed the scene if they're gone, and that's always a sad thing. And good luck to them, whatever they do, and if they go and help somebody else, well, those people are in for a treat as well. And if it's any sign of how well thought of they are in football, just look at all the tripe that's coming out of Man U and their podcasts about saying, they're going to employ her as a tea lady and all that tripe. Well, I'll bet in 10 years' time you're not saying that about Radcliffe, I tell you. I bet Radcliffe hasn't got the flags up the pole to say well done in 10 years' time for them, like Amanda and Mehrdad have for us. So sad, terribly sad, and like the rest of you, the timing is curious. And I'd hate to think it was something to do with the recent matters in the club. You all know how upset I was at the end of of that period where we were trying to sell players and not sell players and all the rest of it. There was a smell about it, and still not a real commentary from the club, and that's sad too. So good luck to them. Thank you for what you've. Really nice.
I do want to reiterate, it's a Thursday night. We're pre-recording this show. We're not live tonight. Something may have happened. Something may have been said over the last 24 hours as this show goes out. So, forgive us if we are slightly behind, but maybe we're not. Maybe silence is still golden and you don't know what's happened. But Joe, it's your first week back, and it's a big week in many ways. And I guess we'll know how big it is once the announcement is made by the club and by Amanda and Mehrdad. There were rumours, of course, of potentially a big meeting in Alnwick this weekend of the top brass of Newcastle United, and maybe that was, part of the story, and maybe the leak has come from, one of the journalists. Steve mentioned, a couple of people there. He mentioned Craig Hope, but obviously, who broke the story? Fair play to them if they have got it. That's what journalists are supposed to do. But overall, if it is the end, and if it is Amanda and Mehrdad going, what's your thoughts on what's happened over the last couple of days?
I think I'll be honest with you, I forgot this show had like a serious element to it. I only come on. I come back for the funny dog pictures. I can only reiterate what the guys have said, Stephen. I think Neil used a word there, which is very important to me in most elements of my life, was hope. And I think since the Sky cameras captured yourself and your dad, was it 2017? I think it was at the Liverpool game. Yep. And we wondered who this lady was. She looked immaculate, she celebrated the goal the equalising goal as it went in, and you're thinking, hang on, in comparison to what we had at the time and what we'd endured for the previous X amount of years, we've actually got something to hang our hat on. And I often refer to her as she always come across as a touch of class. And that was the one thing under the last regime that this football club was devoid of. There was no class anywhere. Yeah. So as the takeover momentum, kind of gathered, and the more you heard from her and from Mehrdad, and they started to sell us the dream a little bit in terms of, she was using statements like, we're not just taking over to do the same thing. We're taking over to make this football club the biggest and best football club in Europe. As a lifelong Newcastle United fan, no one had ever said that before. Look at the characters that Mr. Mitchell's just reeled off there. Nobody was interested in making Newcastle. John all dreamed about it. Unfortunately, we never got there. But all of a sudden, it felt tangible. And then you're mentioning that they've got links to kind of PIF and what that might mean in terms of, the clout to take us where she was promising us. And all of a sudden, you dared to dream, and people went back to the football stadium. People started buying the shirts again. Broadcasters suddenly got back interested in Newcastle United after slating us. They rode out the whole anti-Saudi agenda, and they were still there front and centre. This is going to happen, and wow, and you know what as well, in terms of their credentials as business people, she didn't just promise it; they bloody did it. And there's not many people out there who actually deliver what they say they're going to deliver. And Amanda Staveley did. I did often wonder about the size of the investment and how much clout PCP partners actually had when you've got this colossal that's PIF sat behind you. Was it always going to be a case that the big boys at some point were going to say, this is our ball and we're going to play with it now? I don't know. I think one of the disappointing things outside of losing Amanda and Mehrdad, because it is a loss, as far as I'm concerned, is that the one thing that we were promised at this football club was transparency. Now, if it's for personal reasons, if there's boardroom disharmony or whatever the reasons are, I don't expect our dirty linen to be aired in public. But actually what I would have expected is, if this is true, and like you say, Steve, by broadcast tomorrow, this might be a moot point, but actually, have they gone? What is happening? What's the reason? And what's the plan? And I think if this is a football club that's promised us that they are going to be more transparent and talk to us, Darren Neal's better front and centre tomorrow. Because, we're embarking on you mentioned the transfer window. Let's not forget this lady was absolutely pivotal. She was like a dog with a bone to try and get Anthony Gordon. And look what happened. We signed an absolute gem. So I don't think she was as naive, in the negotiations. I don't think she was the things that the Barclays people accused her of being. I think she was shrewd. I think she was astute. She was a touch of class, and it was the one thing that this football club's been crying out for. So I can only reiterate what George has said. She'll go with every blessing under the sun because she's dared us to dream, and she's delivered a little bit of it. It is quite sad to think that one day when we do see, Tonali lift the FA Cup or whatever that's going to look like, that, I'm sure they'll be there as guests, but they might not be there as part of the staff. But she got the ball rolling. She blew the first whistle, and, good luck to them. I kind of hope she doesn't turn up at another football club, because it will only benefit them. We've battled for a long time to protect our footballers. I'm not so bothered about Mr. Ashworth. He can go and rot at Old Trafford with the rest of the stadium as far as I'm concerned. But I'd hate to see it kind of tip up at Chelsea and, be part of their kind of, next phase and stuff. So Mitch hit the nail on the head. It feels like the end of the beginning. I think I'd focused on the footballers, and I think some of the footballers that were leaving and some of the footballers that will leave over the next 18 months, even players that we brought in to stave, to kind of steer us away from relegation. They will move on because the football team will go to the next level. I didn't think that the board were going to do that quite yet. So as George has said, hopefully she's well, and hopefully she's made a bit of money, because I'm sure with the shares that she initially bought are worth a hell of a lot more today than they were when she bought them. So I'm sure they'll get a good screw out of it. But yeah, it just feels a bit odd, and I'm sitting here. I don't have the knowledge and the experience and everything that you guys know and have been through. I sit here as a fan, and I was thinking, who are we signing? I'm looking at footballers. I'm looking at, I'm watching the Euros. He's pretty good. I quite like that Georgian left back or whatever it is. Didn't think for a minute that Amanda Staveley would be walking away. So I can only put my faith in the fact that it's a business decision that's been made for the right reasons for all parties and on all sides, and we will move forward again. But we're going to need Darren Neals to do that, and it really bothers me, as George alluded to, and as Steve and Neil have said, we don't need another bloke who buys us a pint. We had that, and he was a dickhead, but we don't want another one. We were led to believe that this fella wasn't, and what he'd done at Atalanta and all the kudos that he brings. It's time to start seeing it now, because, they've laid the foundation, and it's only right that people like Darren Neals, et al., Peter Silverstone, carry that forward. So interesting to see what comes next.
Yeah. Definitely. Steve, I wonder if I could finish off having just been on the fringe of some of the takeover stuff all you lads were involved in. You might recall that
that I used to facilitate an opportunity for whoever was involved to go and meet the Lord Lieutenant. And the Lord Lieutenant's office is in Gates at Civic Centre. And twice I had people on the arm going to meet the Lord Lieutenant who were interested in taking over Newcastle United. And who should I bump into coming out the Gates Civic Centre but Ian bloody Mearns? And I couldn't tell them why.
I tell you what's
I
interesting.
never got the opportunity with Amanda, sadly.
Yeah, what's interesting out of all of this is, you know, we all agree that, but in terms of Newcastle United, I suppose since the John Hall days, that's when we started to realise that it wasn't always about managers. It was just as important who was in the boardroom.
Yeah.
You know, the leadership. You know, I think that was the point where we suddenly realised that leadership wasn't in the dugout. You know, we'd seen that under Joe Harvey, and then we'd seen the turmoil that was created after Harvey left, and then that's when the board started to have problems, sort of the back end of the 70s, and then all the way through the 80s. Then Sir John Hall came, and so that was when the owners became the celebrity, if you like. They became the face of the football club. We had Abramovich down at Chelsea, and then we had Sir John as an owner, and we had the guy down at Blackburn in the 90s as well. So owners suddenly started to show their face, and then it sort of kind of rolled into CEOs, and you know, the likes of Peter Kenyon and people like that, David Dean at Arsenal. That role suddenly became the figurehead. And what I would say is that in all of this, I would have expected Darren Eales to have learned one thing about Newcastle United during the 2 years that he's been here, is that had you not looked at the tenure of Mike Ashley and realised that when you leave a void, it'll get filled with all sorts of clamour, and even a void of 24 hours of saying nothing is a lifetime in Newcastle, an absolute lifetime. And it's all well and good as smiling when you find work, but the last thing you can sometimes say is disappear when things start to go difficult for you. You know, like Freddie Fletcher, there's a man who, when things went badly, was straight up there into your face and telling you straight, you know, you can say what you like about me, and you say what I'm planning on doing, but I'm doing it regardless, type of thing. That was slightly different. That was, you know, that was the man, the individual, the Rottweiler, if you like, doing the dirty work on behalf of the owner and whatnot. But you remember, soon as the owners start to fall out with the fans, or soon as the chief executives start to fall out with the fans, it's the rocky road at Newcastle. It really is. So these four guys whose names I've mentioned, both from a commercial side and as chief operating officers and CEOs and sporting directors, they've got to get a grip quick, because it can very, very quickly slip at Newcastle. And it's just, I could be speaking in a sense because it's like emotional, but what I'm actually visualizing, I'm looking back and then I'm looking forward and I'm saying, well, what's to come? How are you going to do it? You've got to get out there and get that message out straight away, guys, because you can lose it very quickly. Supposing, for example, your transfer window doesn't go very well, and you haven't got a Mandarin Mehrdad there explaining to you, and Darren Eales comes on the telly and tries to explain to you why things are going wrong, you're quickly going to turn around and go, you've had every chance. I think if it was coming from Mehrdad and Amanda, we've had a few problems, a few difficulties, etc., because of the goodwill they've already built up, then that would be taken a lot easier. And we've seen it because over the last, let's say, 6 months, or even the last 3 months, when people started going on about PSR, whenever anyone's come out and criticised the way that the club's gone, it's always been for the project, you know, stick in, don't worry, there's a master plan. But that wasn't coming from anyone within the football club. It was coming from the fan base, because there was that trust element there. And if these guys don't build that trust back up very, very quickly, I think they could have problems.
Yeah, Steve, we've got a bit of an internet issue with you, mate. Your internet has been good. We'll let you go there because we could just hear you, but
Right.
your picture's frozen now. So we're going to have a little bit of a break, and we'll get you. It gives you an opportunity to get your internet sorted. So cue this wonderful music. The day I met, where we asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present. A big shout out to Samantha Rees for a wonderful, wonderful selection here. So first of all, David Ginola, of course, and then these wonderful training ground pictures from yesteryear. Les Ferdinand, wow. Tino Aspria, Peter Beardsley, and Rob Lee. And that's not it. Alan Shearer, Warren Barton, a very young-looking Steve Watson, and Darren Peacock. So, Samantha, thanks for letting us share them with our audience tonight. Absolutely brilliant. And we do have one more, and it was a message I was sent by Stephen Kennedy. We'll show that as well. He said, no, this isn't for the day I met, but he's got a picture with Super Mac. He said, this is me with my cult mug of tea next to my hero Malcolm in my Ben Jacobs jumper, which is an unwanted prezi. I prefer plain but bold colours. So thank you, Stephen, for that. The other one I got was this from Chris. He says, hi, Steve. One for the day I met. 1992, KK and Terry Mack came to our football in the community session. And also when I met an old football friend of mine. This shows resident coach and 8-year-old Kevin Chilvers, who's in the Liverpool top. So there we go. The day I met community project. There is KK, Terry Mack, and Kev Chilvers, and he's going to get some stick for that on the fans forum from the lads. I can guarantee you that wearing that Liverpool top with pride as a youngster, but he was probably forced.
That's typical Kev, isn't it? I'll wear a Liverpool top so I can catch Kevin Keegan and Terry Mack's notice. That's what it'll be.
If you've got a photograph of yourself meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, get yourself onto Facebook, join our group or our page. Join the group, like the page. We're nearly at 9,500 on the Facebook group, which is great. And you can post your pictures on there and I will pick them up. Or go on to X, search at Steve Wraith. And if you send me them on there, I will pick them up so I can play this wonderful music. So I make no excuse of making this show predominantly about Amanda and Mehrdad, but we are going to have a little bit of a break from it because our friend has been in touch again with a little teaser for all of the Amigos, and it's from Stephen Kennedy. Okay, Amigos, you guys are old enough to remember these. Your mum has given you some money to buy 2 quarters of 2 different sweets for yourself. What are you buying? So there you go, a wonderful picture of of lots of jars of sweets on a good old shop. I used to sell sweets like this, so I'm going to go first, lads. And it wasn't 2 quarters. You used to be able to get a quarter of sweets. I mean, George, we'll probably go in a different zone with George on this. But I'll tell you what I would have bought. You see, I had a few that I really, really liked. I used to love chocolate limes. So I would get a quarter of chocolate limes and I'm going to go for a quarter of bonbons, toffee bonbons. So I've got a shirt. So I've got something a little bit sherbety. The chocolate lime was nice, and the bonbons. That's what I'm going to go for. So Steve, you can't pick the same ones as me, mate. And you're not having any of mine. You're not having any of mine.
I would go for the aniseed one. The aniseed balls.
Oh, the balls, not the twists.
No, the balls. And I would also go for the lemon quelchas. You know, they used to like, they were hard, but when you put them in, they would just like sort of melt away. I would go for them.
Oh, right, okay. Right, yeah. That would go. Right, so Mitch.
Quarter black bullets.
Black bullets, classic.
And a quarter of jazzies.
Is that not a magazine?
No. Mr. Ray.
Yes, keep it clean.
You leave that sort of stuff to me, thank you.
What were jazzies?
You know, they're like a chocolate button, but they've got hundreds of thousands on the.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. We said that's just a different name. Different name.
His big nana used to have a quarter of them every Friday when we used to call and say, he'd been eating them since he was about 18 months old, man.
Okay, here we go then, George. I'm coming to you next. Give us your sweets, mate. What would you get? You're allowed 2 quarters when you go to the shop.
Well, I know you said I couldn't pick yours. Well, it would be gooseberries would be the first one, and I've got to say toffee bonbons was my favourite. I couldn't pass. There was a little shop opposite the Stevenson School when I went to Stevenson School, and every dinner time, all my dinner money went on sweets like that, but always gooseberries and always toffee bonbons at the top of the list.
I'm gutted we're not live tonight because I would love to see the various suggestions in the chat, but you're probably all having fun doing that now. Okay, then, Joe, what about you?
You're all about 30 years older than me. What are you talking about?
I wish.
So it would.
Never look younger.
Geez, mate. It would have to be lemon sherbets. They were absolutely sublime. I love them. And I was always a stickler for. I think it was chocolate. You know, just like the chocolate dust used to go all over you. You were covered in God knows what you looked like. But I always felt like you were getting more bang for your buck. You always felt like you had more than what my sister used to get. So yeah, it was all about volume for me. So yeah, the cheap chocolate and the sherbet lemons, they're my favourite.
All right, well, before we go to the ads, I'll chuck one in for Stephen Kemp. You've got me mind ticking over now, Stephen. Favourite chocolate bar then, Steve? Your favourite chocolate bar?
Chocolate bar.
Yeah.
Now.
Well,
now.
I mean, what? Let's stick with yesteryear. Because he's gone with quarters. I mean, you can still go to places like Beamish and go and get a quarter of sweets, but it's very difficult to go and get a quarter of sweets now. Let's go. Chocolate bars that aren't with us anymore that you would go out and buy.
Well, I mean, I don't remember any that aren't with us other than it was called the Marathon, but that's you know. Yeah, that one. But I mean, I was always a stickler for the Milky Way. Used to love the Milky Way.
Yeah. Milky Way, yeah. I mean, some of these will have gone. For me, I used to love the Walnut Whirls. Do they still do them?
Walnut Whip.
Walnut Whip, yeah.
With the
little macadamia nut, whatever it was called on the top, yeah. And used to go and.
Well, it was a walnut, Steve, because that's the clues in the name.
Yeah. True. Classic. That's one for the outtakes. That's one for the Malvino one. Is
that the one with the cashew on the top?
Early words. Go on, Mitch. What about you? Bless you,
you know the fries chocolate cream. You get the peppermint and you get the spearmint. Yeah, well, they used to do one that was fruit, and it was different ones in each one. Yeah. So if I could bring that back, I would. That in a Texan bar and Old English Spangles.
Old English Spangles. Okay. Yeah, I remember them as well, Spangles. And there was double agent sweets as well. Double agents. Google them, kids. Google it. Double agents were nice. George?
Well, I'm with Neil on the fries chocolate cream because, again, that's a family
thing.
Copying,
George.
Well, I can't help it because my father-in-law, Neil's granddad, Jim the Joiner, all we used to get off him one of the fries cream bars. It would be either the peppermint or the spearmint or the fruity one, and that was what we always used to get off him. So all, even to me, you know, when bear in mind I was when did I meet Jim the Joiner? When I was about 15 and a half, when I first started to go out with my Marjorie. Even then, that's when I knew I was in the family, because I used to get me chocolate bar on a bloody Friday when he come in with his wages. And the other one, of course, is the one that I still love now, and that's Crunchy. Crunchy's been around a long time, lads. And I love Crunchy. Still love Crunchy. So there you are.
I thought you were going to come up with something like Kendall mint cake or something like that, George. I've got to be honest, Andy down. Kendall mint cake kind of man.
Well, if I was in the scouting fraternity, if I talked to them, yes. Whenever I went away at the camp without, everybody had candle mint cake in that camping gear. So
there we go. Okay then, Joe.
The go-to was always the curly whirly. I have a real affinity to the curly whirly, but me special occasion chocolate. So when I was a kid, every Easter I would always get a Yorkie egg off our mum, and I just have a thing for Yorkie. It's sublime. So I'll go with Yorkie.
Good stuff. There you are, Stephen. I'm looking forward to your next challenge for next week, mate, and we'll be live next week, so we'll be able to interact with the chat. Halfway through the show, as always, we'll be back again talking a little bit about Amanda and Mehrdad after these ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today.
Don't forget, the end of season do is next weekend. Tickets from NUFCmatters.com, NewcastleLegends.com. Supermat and Gibbo, George and the Long Sands are on stage in aid of Dementia Matters. All proceeds from the £10 tickets going to Dementia Matters. Do not miss out. Gibbo and Rob Lee are on at the Gateshead Leisure Centre. That's Friday the 2nd of August. Tickets from gatesheadleisurecentre.co.uk. That's where you get your tickets for that. Tickets priced at £30. And then venturing in next year, Peter Beardsley's on at the Irish Centre, 10th of January. Tickets £30 from NewcastleLegends.com. And an evening with the entertainers, 24th of January at the Tyne Theatre. Tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000. Okay, back on with the show, and it's time for, I know a lot of people seem to think this is the best part of the show now, Tweet of the Week. And as always, a bit of variety. Carmen Ohm lives in Owen Sound, Ontario. Where do people find these things? I really, really don't know. Do people actually go out and search them? Anyway, a little note left on the toilet this week. If you pee on the seat, I will scrub it with your toothbrush. Love, ma'am. And this photograph just flipped our microwave on its side, and he absolutely loves it. And the USA election, if you thought the debate was bad, you're going to hate the swimsuit competition.
Jesus.
And another man with an interesting name, getting a lot of inboxes at the moment. Scott Jeg. Hello, mate. I found a picture of you on Google. And I've got to say, this is the must-have, Tony Stevens, this is the must-have umbrella for people. This was outside of Downing Street, of course, when Keir Starmer walked in. Lovely initials on the top of that umbrella. SMB.
Yeah.
For sale, guys, for sale. Gary Scott, thanks for this. I'm looking to sell my DeLorean. Good shape, low mileage, only driven from time to time. See what he did there?
Oh.
And this can't be a genuine place, lads. It can't be. I'm not even going to mention it. But there has been this giant iceberg floating in Conception Bay in Canada. That's all I'm saying. But thank you for your submission, Ugly Camel, as always. And to the person at work who always steals my donuts, your day of reckoning has come. I bet you there's somebody who's done that. Do not go to this railway station, guys. Keep back from the platform edge, where you may get sucked off.
Where's that?
I've never noticed this at all. When you turn a stormtrooper's helmet upside down, they look much less serious looking. That's hilarious. I've never noticed that before. I do like this as well. This is very clever play on words. Andy Ryan, two elderly British ladies greeting each other. Hello, Vera. Evening primrose oil.
Oh, dear.
And we've seen this many times before. I'm sure the bottom picture, the top picture, Yoga Master. The bottom picture, Jägermeister. I'm sure that's something that Stu and Mitch can take on board. With the election being over, I'm happy to report that Rishi Sunak has cancelled his Sky subscription. And I do like this photo. This photo as well. Must be a nightmare to sing happy birthday to this woman on Facebook who was called To You. Give it a go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, it's mad that. That's right. I had to give it a sing. There we go as well.
Like you're in an echo chamber.
It does because it's you. Echoing. Open the box before eating pizza. Is that really on a box? Is that really classic? And just had a photograph of Mitch's new toilet.
Yeah. That's why I get numb legs.
And this is a reflection of yesteryear, lads. What kids drink today? 3 bottles of Prime. What we drank as kids, 2020. That's a great picture, that. And I can certainly agree with that. This is great. Me, I hit an animal and my car's totaled. Am I covered? The insurance company, yes. What did you hit? Me, a fish. There's a car for sale, but as Freddie Shepherd used to say, lads, buyers beware. Truck for sale needs parts. Another one of these brilliant, Decent Pigeon posted this. The owner of my Airbnb has a dog named Kevin. His human-sounding name terrified me at first. This is actually on Airbnb. I apologize in advance, but Kevin may try to sleep with you. Just keep your door shut. The guy replied, excuse me, what? And then he put Kevin on my dog. So, and the Scottish on Bitter just asked Stu Penman, cut your own grass, England. That's actually a picture of the border between England and Scotland. Fantastic. And last few, lads. Freddie Mercury. Mama, just grilled. Very good. Oh. People do like to send these in to test my singing ability. And Jimmy, this is a great one. Tweet of the week. He says, I really need to finish the movies. I think I missed this plot twist. Of course, this guy who's now been locked up in America, Harry Potter, 52 of Greenville, crack possession. And the winner this week of Tweet of the week is this one. If you're happy and you know it, clamp your hands.
Oh, clap your hands.
So, after 3, George, 1, 2, 3. If you're happy and you know it, clamp your hands.
Clap your hands, bum, bum. You're happy.
No, it's clamp your hands. No, it's clamp your hand, George, not clap your hands.
Yes, I know.
You've got a tweet of the week.
Somehow.
You do like to do that. Facebook group, join the Facebook group, NUFC Matters. Go to the Facebook page, like it. or send them to me on X at Steve Wraith, and I will no doubt show them next week with George joining in. I did mention this last week, and I didn't want to include it in Tweet of the Week because I just wanted to get your opinions on it, lads, because we'll fly through those tweets. This was the new Senegalese Football Federation statue honouring Sadio Mane in his hometown. Steve, we've seen many great statues. This isn't one of them.
No, it's not. Definitely not. I feel for the lad. Dear me. I wonder if he was there when they unveiled it as well. Dear me. I mean, we have seen some pretty ropey statues in my time, haven't we? But I think that's more modern art than anything else. I mean, I think Henry Moore would have been proud of that one.
I mean, what we can say, Mitch, is it's in the correct strip.
But even then, one of the socks is tied around the leg, not actually on the leg.
Aye.
I mean, there are so many questions.
And no
it
answer.
just gets worse the longer you look at it. Yeah, you're right. You can't answer them. The longer you look at it, it gets worse. It's like some sort of nightmarish ventriloquist dummy from the 70s sort of late entertainment show with undertones of racism in it. And it's just horrendous. It's horrendous.
I really did feel for him when I saw that. I mean, Joe, we've seen, I mean, the Cristiano Ronaldo one, Joe, I remember back in the day was horrendous. What, I mean, have you seen this picture? Is this the first time you've seen it?
You know, when the kids bring something really shit home from school and you have to say, that's amazing, and stick it on the fridge. That's what's brings to life. I mean, that's horrific, isn't it? Bless him.
I mean, I'm looking at the hands, and I mean, I haven't zoomed in. I've got more things to be doing with my life, but it looks as if there's like extended fingernails on there. I don't know whether he's got like he's had a nail job or whether they're like Freddy Krueger's knives on his hand. George, overall thoughts of this? Marks out of 10.
-10. I mean, it doesn't even get on the scale for me. I'd be looking for which infant school pupil did it, you know, which four-year-old in the kindergarten did the statue. Gosh, it really is horrendous. And if, as you say, if the poor lad was there when they unveiled it, he's in the position that Joe's just mentioned. Oh yes, that's lovely. My God.
I mean, you notice as well, I mean, to make sure that it balanced and didn't topple over, they had to give him size 19 feet.
Yes.
Actually, I've just zoomed in on it. It gets worse. The left hand, the hand's in such a position, it's contorted. And the face, his eyes are like almost out on stalks. And I don't know what's going on with the proportion of the lower third of his face. And that's professionally speaking.
Unfortunate that whoever he chose to design it, they chose to design it, has made an absolute balls up of that. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, we will we'll await some comment, I guess, from Sadio Mane's agent and family, but I doubt he'll be endorsing that anytime soon. Let's get back to Amanda and Mehrdad and that situation we've talked about. And again, pre-recorded show, things may have escalated, changed, whatever, before we go about there. But should they have gone, Steve? Do we need to replace them? I mean, we've talked quite a bit about Darren Eales stepping up to the plate, or having, you know, somebody step forward. Is it a case of Silverstone or Eales stepping forward and becoming that figurehead, or is it a case of maybe he's cleverly bringing in a replacement, somebody who the fans can automatically go, we trust that person? Is it time to perhaps put a club legend in there?
No, I think it could well be, but I don't think that would happen. I think it's more than likely that Darren Eales has to step up to the plate. That's his role. I mean, I always thought that there was a crossover. You know, Amanda seemed to be doing everything when the takeover first happened, and then Darren Eales came in as a CEO, but she still seemed to be doing CEO work. And then obviously Ashworth came, and then Ashworth went. on gardening leave, and then we heard that she was covering the transfer activity. She was, looking at the scouting and looking at making deals on that side before Paul Mitchell then was appointed. And obviously, there's been a transitional period there, because there's no doubt that Newcastle just simply couldn't announce Paul Mitchell in place while while Dan Ashworth was still on gardening leave. So I think we got held up there. It was inevitable that a deal was going to be done at some point, but it just seemed to be Man United that seemed to be dragging it out, and that type of thing. And really, Peter Silverstone's there from a commercial aspect, and the other guy, Brad Miller, is there, but he works below Darren Eales, so you can't expect him to be stepping up as the spokesperson. Would they go for a situation where you had like a media personality, that then took on that role? Some clubs have tried it in the past, but it's tended to be more the manager. Under Ashley, if you remember, it was always simply, it was Rafa or nobody, it was Steve Bruce or nobody, it was McLaren or nobody. You didn't hear anything really from anyone else. It seemed to be that it was left to them to do the talking, but not to do the decision making. And I think now we've moved to the stage where Darren does need to step up to the plate, and I think that's the role that he'll have to take on. He also has to take on the role that Amanda obviously had, which was representing us, as we've said earlier, at the Premier League meetings and such like. That's another area where sometimes it was the sporting director from some clubs are there. It's the chief executive, if it's in the case of, let's say, Brighton, it will be Paul Barber, unless it's specifically something very, very important, in which case the owner wants to be there. It's certainly, when it comes to Crystal Palace, it's Steve Parish. I don't think Kroenke turns up at the meetings. I think he has executives, and what's going to be interesting is to see who turns up and represents Manchester United. I suspect it'll be the new owner, if you like. It certainly wasn't any of the previous family, but I think a lot of it comes down to egos as well. A lot of it comes down to, some people have a personality that allows them to get out there and can front things up, and then they grow into the role. It's interesting, the void that Sunderland left, because Kirill doesn't do much talking. And look at the problems that created. They ended up with having black and white stuff put up in, for the cup match and stuff like that. That's the problem. If you have the wrong people who are not willing to take the responsibility of fronting things up and being able around to say, no, that doesn't happen, that does happen. That's the void that very, very quickly creates the problems with the fan base, because it's only like, I'll use Sunderland as an analogy. It's not that long ago that they were all raving over Kirill and saying what a good owner he was. And then 3 managers and 1 disastrous cup tie with black and white in the stand in the corporate area, and immediately he's like, it's the night of the long knives there, and I don't think the guy's recovered yet from it, and I suspect he won't, because if they don't get off to a good start with this manager that they've got, then they're gonna have real big problems in their boardroom. So it's important that these people who get paid the job do the job, and I think with Newcastle United, it's very, very important that somebody does do that fronting up. And I think Mehrdad and Amanda did it very well. I think they did it very cleverly. I think their personalities lent them to it. But at the moment, we don't know really much about Darren Eales' personality, because we haven't really heard that much from him. Peter Silverstone, he's been on a couple of podcasts, he's been on Radio Newcastle. We haven't heard anything from our new sporting director, but I wouldn't have expected to. I think he's got more important things to be doing internally, getting his feet under the table and spending time with the management team, the football management team, that is. Eddie Howe and the rest of them, and getting into the academy and talking to the people there. So I think that it only leaves Darren, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and I just noticed that, because of the kitchen situation. The question I put to Steve, it was if they do go, will there be a replacement brought in? And I'm just citing the potential ex-player, like an ambassador to come in and almost be that person who has the trust of the supporters. You know what I mean, like a figurehead.
We've speculated in terms of the appointment of Paul Mitchell. Were there other appointments going to be associated with it? And certainly to have somebody who could be the face of the club, who could interact with both fans and media alike, with knowledge of the history and the club city community synergy, and how basically Newcastle United is, I think would be a very shrewd appointment. But what they then do within that structure, I don't know whether it would be a board appointment or whether it would be, extra to the board working under a combination of the CEO and the sporting director, stroke director of football, whatever title Paul Mitchell comes in with, would remain to be seen. But I think it would be a shrewd appointment, because what we're losing with Amanda and Mehrdad is that connection to somebody within the club who gave us hope and who sold the dream, kept the dream alive, kept the fires burning, and that we'll have a trust with. I would still suggest if they weren't moving on, if that is the case, obviously again we're pre-recording, we don't know what the actual score is until statement's proper. It does seem premature for them to move on, where they're almost still in a honeymoon period. I think they get away with murder still. I think they could make many mistakes, and they've still got so much in the bank with the fans that I think they could still ride that, and that's what the club would be very shrewd in making an appointment of somebody who could hit the ground running, who could interact with the fans, who could keep the trust of the fan base and manage the fan base, because we have become over the last few years, I think, quite thirstier for information. I think some elements of our fan base have become impatient and almost entitled when we still haven't won anything within my lifetime. And so it would be a very challenging role. It would take the right individual, but if the club could identify the right individual, it would be a very shrewd appointment.
George, what about you? What would you like to see? Would you like to see someone come in, and if it is the case that Amanda and Mehrdad are stepping aside after a wonderful period at the club, would you like to see someone come in who at least we can we can look at and say, yeah, we trust you, we know what you've done, you've worn the shirt with pride, or somebody who comes in who's got that kind of media presence and an ability to turn a crisis into not a crisis? Yeah,
well, there's an obvious answer to that one. If you want a former player, and you'll see him on the telly shortly with the football, won't you? Because he's commentating.
Mm-hmm.
He sticks out like a sore thumb when you talk like that. The problem they've got, if they appoint somebody who's just a figurehead, but has no relationship at all with the players or the other staff, it would be a nonsense. You'd get another question like our loan manager. How many people know what our loan manager does? Because we get those sort of questions all the time. So it's got to be a proper job, is what I'm saying, and for a proper individual who's got the clout. Otherwise, as you lads say most elegantly, there's a big hole, and we're very clever on Tyne's side, filling the hole for ourselves and making a bad situation even worse. So, yeah, it's going to be a hard job to do. Let's face it. I mean, at every level, from doing the takeover right up through till it was successful, and since they came into the club proper, she's been a busy person. So is he. You know, everywhere you went. I mean, one of the biggest shocks I got was that one night was when we were playing Chelsea, and there was Amanda and Mehrdad in the Chelsea director's box. Not the away bit, but in the home bit. Obviously, chin wagging with the Chelsea board, and could probably do it with aplomb, as they say. So to get somebody to repeat all of that and buy the Geordie bit of it, the Tyneside bit of it as well, would be very, very hard indeed. I mean, I think I've said it on here. I've certainly said it on other platforms. One of the great issues in the university when I was first in was that we had a professor who used to show his credentials as a Geordie by making me go to the Christmas party and listen to him sing 9 verses of the Bladen Races. And he thought that made him a Geordie. Well, it made him a Geordie, but there was 1 or 2 adjectives in front of it before he got it. Yeah, we can't be doing with that. We need a proper person, and a proper person with a proper job and a linkage to all bits of the club, particularly with the playing staff as well as the boardroom. That's very hard. But as I say, if you pressed me very hard, there is such a person out there. He's working for the BBC at the minute. Why doesn't he come home and work for Newcastle United? That would suit me down to the ground. But I don't know. Is it the sort of job you want? I don't think so, sadly. But it would ideal candidate. But there's got to be something put in its place. We keep going back to Mr. Eales. You lads are right. He's got to step up and demonstrate he is what it says on the tin. He is what it says on his office door, and not just appear when the shop's open or this sort of thing and do a glad hand down the queue and all that sort of thing. He's got to be doing it regularly and more openly, more specifically than he has so far. Because as I say at the moment, Neil's description of him, buying a few pints and singing the Bladen Races sent a shudder down my spine, because we've just got rid of that one. We don't want another one. So I do think it needs careful thought. And yes, there will leave a hole that needs to be filled. Otherwise, the sort of speculation we've had about the PSR stuff and all the rest of it will just get worse and worse and worse. I should have with that as well, that acronym PSR. That's something that magistrates used to do in court. We used to read PSR reports. And every time I hear it, I think I'm stepping back into another world again. Probation service report is the acronym in court, but it's a hole that needs to be filled. Otherwise, rumor, speculation, it'll all just go to pot. We'll just get everything and nothing.
Okay, Joe, it's always hard for you to go last on this show, but we've all got opinions, and we've always got opinions about this, and this is one. Your opinion could be vastly different. Would you be happy going into the season with what we've got, with the likes of Eales and with the likes of Silverstone, and obviously Al-Ramayan, of course, who we don't hear a great deal from. I think most of us would probably like to hear a bit more from PIF now that they've been here for so long, but if that's the way they want to do business, who are we to criticise? But ultimately, from my perspective, I would probably like to see somebody come in who at least would be, I don't like to say the fall guy, just a front person, somebody who can come and say when the proverbial hits the fan, as it often does at our football club, and there is this uncomfortable period of no news at all from the football club. We need somebody to come out and do that kind of Keegan on the steps moment and say, well, this is what's happening. This is why it's happening. And don't panic. Which at the moment, I'm afraid, seems to be left to us on a Friday night. For us to go, don't panic. And who are we to tell you what's going on at the football club? Because we don't have direct communications with the club. You know, we are like journalists in a sense. We pick up a lot from good contacts. But we are often the ones who say, don't panic. But would you like to see somebody in place, Joe?
It's twofold for me, Steve, and I apologise. I didn't catch what Steve and Mitch were saying, but I think in my head, so the basic answer is yes. I think every top organisation needs a face. Of course, it does. But actually, is that not what a CEO does? Is part of their role not to be the voice and the one who fronts up when the brown stuff's hitting the fan, and also is right there to celebrate when it's going really well? Should CEOs of top organisations, have the charisma to do that and the media savviness and all the rest of it? Of course, because that's what he gets paid X amount of £1 million a year or whatever the hell he's on to do. So, would I like someone? Yes. I'm the eternal, nostalgia freak when it comes to Newcastle and thinking of some of the names that are synonymous with kind of me growing up with the club. There's loads of people who do it, and there's loads of people who'd be very, very good at it. And the gentleman that Mr. Mitchell's talking about, would epitomise that. But fundamentally, why should he? Why should he why should he walk away from the BBC and his top job and his lovely podcasts and his comfortable life to come and have to do the Keegan on the steps moment when actually that's what we pay CEOs for? So in my head, I'm waiting for Darren Eales now, because Amanda ain't going to be there, depending on, Jamie Rubin is a charismatic guy. Is that his job? Arguably not. Is it Yasser Al-Rumayyan's job? Is he here enough to front and centre? Arguably not. So surely it's down to the guys who are doing the day-to-day running, and Darren Eales is the top, he's the kiddie, he's the top bloke. So let's hear from him. Let's hear from what he's got to say. If it's an absolute car crash, if we get another Mike Ashley Sky interview, the cart before the horse and all that shit he was talking about, then fine. Maybe we need to revisit the conversation. But I'm up for giving him a chance. I'm up for hearing what he's got to say. What is the plan? Not only from a transfer perspective, but, we're waiting to hear what's happening with the stadium, the naming rights, the shirt sponsorship, the training ground sponsorship, the training kit sponsorship. There's lots and lots of things I'm waiting to hear from Darren Eales. So where are you, mate? There's an invite there. Come out and talk to us. And at that point, I'll evaluate whether we need to bring somebody in, or actually he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Can I just say, Steve, as well? I think bringing an ex-player in is a pointless and chalice for them, because I don't know whether it's just my negativity coming over here because and nostalgia and looking back, but I just feel as though any ex-player who comes in with a role of being the spokesperson will be tarred with every mess that happens, and we've seen it slightly with Shola, for example. And when things haven't gone right with loans that the players have had, people have immediately questioned his role. We've seen it with people in the back office that do hospitality at the ground. As soon as something's going wrong, people then start to question, well, why are they in there? And I think that it's a danger that players. The whole everything that they've brought to the club in a positive way could potentially be jeopardized if they happen to be the one who has to dish out bad news. Because as soon as you dish out bad news to football fans, then it's coming from their mouth, not from the club's mouth. It's coming from their mouth, and I think that's
the acid test, Steve. Sorry, that's the acid test, isn't it, for me? What you're talking about there is, and at the moment, let's have it right. It's been a dream for Amanda Staveley because they couldn't do no wrong. It couldn't get any worse. We're a million miles away from where they were. So in terms of her coming out and being the positive face of the football club, as George said earlier, the women's team, Adidas, you name it, it Midas touch completely. You earn your money when it's not going so well. And I agree with you, if it's, I don't know, Keegan, Beardsley, Shearer, whoever it's going to be, they've got to come out and when we're beating Spurs 6-0, I'll go and stand on the steps and talk to the fans. That's brilliant. That's amazing. When Spurs beat us 7-0, you're right. I think there's a danger to it. So why tarnish people? As I said earlier, when you've got executives earning executive money, let them earn it.
Exactly, and remember that's why Kevin Keegan left eventually under Sir John Hall when they wanted him to front up the share issue, and Keegan went, "No, I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to say it." So it was like a case of, "Well, you will say it," and it was like, "No, well, I'm away then." That's as soon as you get a personality who is there to give out the good news, when they have to then start dishing out the bad news, they don't want to be the king of hearts or the king of spades. They don't want to be Chemical Ali, who has to dish out all the dodgy sort of cryptic sort of psychic publicity. They're quite the opposite. No, I didn't make that decision. That's somebody else's. And that's where spin doctors with politicians, the people like that don't last long, because they don't want to be the bearer of bad news. The person who has to bear the bad news has to be the person who created the bad news. And that's why, as you say, the decision makers are the people who have to front things up.
We've already got somebody at the club, I believe, and I'm not going to say they are on a contract, but I've been led to believe, so this is allegedly, is Ryan Taylor not in a position where he is an ambassador for the club?
Well, I think they've got a few ambassadors, haven't they?
But I mean, Ryan Taylor is seen in and around under that role. He is seen in and around the club, and I mean, for example, at Sunderland away at the FA Cup, Ryan was walked through the crowd, and I know Nobby Solana was paid to go along to be a.
Do you know how he got on the ground?
No.
You went over the wall.
Oh, right. I'll tell you, kid. But yeah, listen, it's a thought. If he is getting paid, to be an ambassador for the club, maybe Ryan Taylor could do it. He's a player. He's an ex-player. He's a Mackham Slayer, if you like. Sure, as the Lone Ranger, he could be the man who fronts people up and gives you some kind of.
He seems to be the go-to when they need to fill in on something. When Wilson
somebody didn't turn up
for the online thing, and he did something somewhere else as well last minute, and then he seems to be the one that is on standby to fill in for anything and anybody at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you'll turn up in America, or you'll turn up in Dubai or in Saudi Arabia when there's a meet and greet. Certainly,
that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, he's not going to be doing it for free. I presume he's on a contract. I presume he's doing something. I would allege that is the case. However, if he is in that position, maybe it's just a thought. It's just a thought. I'm sure you're all having a little chat away in the chat about it. It's not our decision. It's something we're throwing out there. But the communication is the key, and Amanda and Mehrdad certainly got that and they understood that, and it's something that we reiterated to them time and time again before the club was bought. Communication is the thing that's let us down for years, and there are growing concerns amongst the fan base that the communication isn't very good at this moment in time with certain people, and we've been through this with Wembley tickets, we've been through it with membership, we've been through it with ticket office stuff. There was a horrendous post, and I'm going to have to read it and look at it before I decide whether I'm going to use it on here. But you can see it on one of the Facebook pages that we are on our Facebook group. Someone having a battle with the club about a ticket. Now, it's not our job to fight other people's battles, but it's not the first time I have seen somebody take to social media in a plea for help with regards to an issue, which by all purposes should be sorted out by supporter services. And when you go back to somebody and say, this is who you need to contact, and they go, we have done this and we're not getting anywhere, it's a nightmare. Go on, Mitch.
It's not a new thing, though. No. It's something that has not been changed, in my opinion, or addressed in any way, shape, or form. Go back to the days of when Biffa and Niall started .com.
Yeah.
Go back when me and Steve were involved in setting up NUFC and then turning it into NST. And now, if you look at Daz Curry and Joe at NUSC now, that we have all in our time helped people sort problems out with tickets that should have been the bloody job of the ticket office, and because somebody couldn't be bothered, wouldn't be bothered, didn't give us stuff, or didn't know inside the club. Idiots like us spend time in our spare time helping good people out who have got themselves painted into a corner with something. I mean, my dad, I spoke about it on here recently, the response my dad got from the ticket office, well, can't your son sort it out? Well, your son did. But it would have been nice of you to say, well, actually, maybe he should be sorting it out, but I'll help you here and I can do this for you. Because that wouldn't have been rocket science. And so,
sorry,
Dad.
No, I'm just going to say, well, I'm going to have a call with you shortly about a ticket office phone call I've had today, and somebody watches this program, is all I'll say, because yeah, I'm not going to say it out loud on here because it wouldn't be fair, but the evidence to me is that somebody watches this program very closely, and I think today I got the backwash of some of that, I think.
Okay.
You know,
interesting, but we'll find out. Don't say too much more, George. I don't want to incriminate you.
No.
Or the show, so we'll wait and see how that develops. Interesting stuff. We've got 20 minutes left on the show, and it wouldn't be a Friday night without this. Joe demands, Rita delivers, Steve Hasty look-alike. Rita for her first one. This is Rita's main ones. Emery and Bruce Springsteen.
I can see that, yeah.
Not bad. Not bad at all. And Didier Deschamps and Albert Steptoe from Rita this week as well.
Great.
There's been some rather strange ones. That Steve Hasty one, wasn't it? This one from Andrew came under tweet of the week, but I thought it was a great lookalike. Tell Jabber I've got his money, says Rory Stewart. But he does look like Han Solo. So Andrew, who was expecting to see that in tweet of the week, I think that's a more deserving lookalike. So well done, mate. That's a good one. Menorca Mag, thank you for this. Jordan Pickford in Menorca. Having a quick break before the final, obviously. And another Star Wars themed one. Billy Joel playing harmonica. Looks like a dying Anakin Skywalker.
Or vice versa.
Good lookalike. Tom Dixon, thanks as always. Flamini and Gillenhell.
Yeah.
See it.
And another one from Tom. Alec Baldwin, who was in the news for all the wrong reasons. And Edward Lodanescu.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is good. That.
Yeah, not a bad one.
Young Alec Baldwin, yeah.
Ignazi and Kirchich,
yeah. Yeah.
And this one was sent to us, I think it was on our WhatsApp group, but it fits the lookalike remit. Matt Lucas arrested. I mean, it could be anybody. It could be Buster Blood Vessel. It could be anybody. But Matt Lucas, I'll go with that. Another Hasty lookalike. The small lad in Air Supply looks like Steve Hasty.
That's funny. That I like that. I giggled at that, Steve. I must admit.
And this one, Jack Grealish and David Spade from Sooty. Another Jordan Pickford one this week. Separated at birth. Cheers, Gary. Thanks for all your stuff. And this one was from Stu Penman. He said, "Is this Ben Jacobs?" Wow. The one on the left. It's definitely not.
Let Ben answer that one.
Just because you never took your bet. Top three. Sylvester Stallone and a green pepper. Very good. And number 2 this week, Arsene Wenger at Wimbledon.
I can see that actually.
The
more you look, the more you see it.
It does look like it. Yeah, it does look like Wenger. But the winner this week, German policeman and Gareth Southgate. If you haven't seen it, we've stuck it on our shorts on YouTube. You'll be able to see it now. It's had a few thousand views, that one tonight. But he got renditioned at the match outside, and
It was on the national news at lunchtime.
Absolutely brilliant. That great stuff. If you've got a lookalike, get yourself on the Facebook group or the Facebook page. Join the group, like the page, or contact me on X at Steve Wraith, and we will endeavour to show you lookalikes next week. Okay, last 15 minutes, let's talk England. We are in the final, Steve. What a win that was in the semis. The first half, to be honest, was the best I think England have played. The second half, tactically, Holland came out and changed things. That's what changed the game. So, I think Southgate got it right. He took Trippier off. He brought Shaw on, who he's confident enough in to play 45 minutes, and we tightened things up. And then he rolled the dice in the dying embers of the game, and once again, it proved to be the right decision. And much has happened in the group games. He's just eased his way into the final. We know that it was an easier side of the draw, but who cares? We're in a final, and we're in our first final on foreign soil. Gareth Southgate deserves a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely, and we can't sit there really and say, oh, we got the easier side of the draw, because the side of the draw we got was based on how other countries did or didn't perform. So we only got what we just followed the path because we won our group, just because other people didn't win the group, just because other people finished third, and that type of thing. Club countries that they thought would finish second finished first, finished second, and it just spun out that way. That was literally down to the luck of the draw. That's the way I look at that part of it. The game itself on Wednesday night, you're right. I mean, literally that was a game of two halves. That was a game of England playing on the front foot, England with a midfield partnership that seemed to be playing 5-6 yards further forward, exactly where we want them to play. I thought Bellingham had a relatively quiet game in comparison to Foden, who was all over. I thought that Kane had a quiet game by his the way that we know that he can perform, but I thought that he's been like that throughout the tournament so far. So it was no surprise when he was substituted. We all question Southgate's substitutions, don't we? When we have done from the very start, when he brought Anthony Gordon on for 2 minutes and then Anthony Gordon disappeared into his little corner of the dugout, never to be seen again. I did ask you guys whether I thought that he was actually an AI generated bod rather than anything else. Was he actually really there? Had he been sent home after game one? The very fact that he's just never been used again just amazes me, quite honestly. There's been plenty of opportunities where Southgate, a bit like Howe in some respects, waits sometimes to make his substitutions. I've been a critic of Howe in that respect on a number of occasions last season and the season before. Back end of the season, he started to get it right. He started to make his substitutions at a time when they could make a difference. Do we turn around and say that they were inspired substitutions? I think it was more they were the required substitutions rather than inspired. And you play at the whistle. And I thought that of all the England goals we've seen of late in various competitions, that ranks with one of the best. The movement, the speed, the agility to be able to take the ball on one foot and then just hit that ball back across the goalkeeper, I thought was tremendous. Especially from a player who'd come off the bench and hadn't been seen again since the first game. Well done, absolutely brilliant. I mean, sent the Rockets forward. I think the whole country, there must have been like a mini earthquake. You could feel it here. it was just absolutely brilliant to think we've now got into a final, our first final in an overseas country. A great achievement, despite the performances, because I don't think England have played within themselves because he's wanted them to. I think that we've ridden our luck. I think Southgate's ridden his luck. I don't think he went out with a game plan that we would get through this championship, building up to a final in the manner that the way we've played. If he had, then I would question an awful lot more about him than I'm actually going to do or actually have. But I can't knock the hook because of the fact he's got the final. It's going to be a fascinating game. They've got some great players. I like Ruiz in the midfield for the Spanish. Obviously, Rodri, who will just hold the whole thing together, and a player that I've mentioned to you guys on a number of occasions, Danny Olmo, who I think would be a fantastic acquisition for us if and when he becomes available. And the only other thing I'm going to say is that, hey lads, how does a team with Cucurella in get to the final? That's got me baffled. I was going to ask you what the odds you thought would be, Joe. What would they've given us for the odds on if we didn't know his nationality that Cucurella would play in a final? Because quite frankly, that bloke is all over the place. Yet there he is in a European final. It fascinates me. But that's football, isn't it? That's football, and just goes to show that if you've got the right personnel who are playing the right formation, it doesn't really matter. What we've had Southgate throughout us is that he's tried to hit so many square pegs and so many round holes, and that's really meant probably why we've struggled. But we've got there, and that's all that matters, I suppose, and roll on the final. And I cannot believe it, but I've got to go to work on Sunday night. I'm going to miss the final. I'm going to have to listen to it on the radio. It's going to be like the old days. Listen to a final on the radio rather than watch it on TV. It'd be different, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, Mitch, thoughts on this final and the fact that we're in it?
Look, that's all the history books will ever recount. If we go on and win it, nobody will ever talk about, oh, we played shit against them and we didn't do too well against that. That's tournament football. That's the nature of it. And we have got better game on game, generally. I thought there was things about the way we controlled the game yesterday haven't gone down to a superb strike early on. I don't think that's had any of the praise it was really due because of the end, the result in the end. Yes, he was kind of backed into a corner with the substitutions, but so what? He made the right changes. Watkins' goal was superb. That's what he's been doing all season, and that's why we've been crying out for him to be in the team. The movement with him when he came on made such a difference. Spain have gone with really a lot of youth and talent, but we actually have got players with, I would suggest, a bit more big game experience, and I think we've got to go in with the same mindset that we did to the semi-final. Yes, Spain have looked good, but once you're in the final, it's anybody's game. It's a two-horse race. There's nothing for a dead heat in this one either, you know. So for all, and I've certainly been critical of Southgate along the way. We're there, and we've got more than a puncher's chance come Sunday.
Joe, I'll come to you next, mate. Thoughts on the game coming up and how on earth we're here in the final?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult for me, Steve, because I'm not going to sit here and profess to be England's biggest fan. You know, the qualifiers don't particularly float me boat. I don't watch any of the friendlies. They do nothing for me. I was looking forward to the tournament, A, because there was some football on the telly, but B, going into it when you've got a forward line of Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, Saka, you Anthony Gordon, heaven forbid, you're expecting big things, and we didn't quite do it. But as Neil said, I'm kind of getting to the point now of going, so what? You know, however we got there, we're in the final. And one of the things that I was thinking was, if this was Newcastle United, I'd be cartwheeling all over the screen now. You know, so what? You know, we won on penalties against Northampton Town on a Tuesday night in the rain to get to the FA Cup final. I don't care. So I don't want to be overly, you know, hypocritical. Has he got it right throughout? No. As some, you know, not having a left back hasn't done him any favours. And as you know, I don't want black and white tinted glasses on when I talk about Kieran Trippier. He has stood out like a bit of a sore thumb out there, and has stopped the majority of the attacks. You know, going on the outside down the left. Did Gallagher work? Arguably, you know, not. Did Trent Alexander-Arnold work? Absolutely not. You know, but when it's come to it, he has done the right thing, in fairness. And Ollie Watkins is a prime example. I fall out with my dad all the time about I really rate Ollie Watkins. I think he's a tremendous centre forward, and I wish he was in black and white. You know, but. So, you know, bringing Tony on when he did in the last game, Kobe Mainoo, and giving him the freedom to kind of play. He was brave enough to take the back four out and replace it with the back 3/5, depending on which way you look at it. So he has responded. He's doing the right things. I just wish with some of the flair footballers that we've got. I mean, I absolutely adore Phil Foden. And it was quite nice in the semi-final just to see Phil Foden doing some Phil Foden things. He looked a bit freer. He was turning with the football. He was picking the passes out, a couple of shots on goal. So, yeah, I vowed I wouldn't get carried away, but come Sunday afternoon, I'll start to get carried away. And like I said earlier in you know, those brief prices that I gave, let's not forget France had some chances in their semi-final. France could have scored, you know, had things been slightly different. So will we get a chance? Will he go for it? No, he's not going to go flying at them, because he just won't. But have we got footballers to win football matches? Absolutely. It's the final of the Euros, and I just hope, in many ways, don't forget, you know, when we played Italy at Wembley, we've also got a bit of a score to settle as well, and maybe that'll be in the players' minds in terms of this time, you know, we will get it over the line. So why not? Why not? And my big worry is, or one of the things I was thinking is, what does this then do for Southgate? Because he was all but gone after this tournament, and it was going to be what the next kind of you know, chapter looked like for whoever the next England manager is going to be. If he gets it, they're talking about bloody knighthoods and statues and stands at Wembley and God knows what, you know, the Gareth Southgate bar and all this, that and the other, God forbid. But fair play to him. If he wins the Euros, he's done more than anybody else has ever done. So we can't knock him for that, can we? So good luck, England. You know, hopefully we'll win. It'll be great for the country, great for the economy, you know, exactly the boost that the country needs, I guess, at the moment. So, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, and rumours, if the bar does open, that he's going to have one of his England shirts, of course, from his game hung up in a frame in the bar, and maybe these lucky pants as well, which have clearly got him to the final. George, just your views on how on earth England got to this final.
Well, you've all said it. More by good luck than good management, I've got to say. In fact, if anything, the manager tried to put out of it altogether. The way he selected and the way he didn't select, and the way he gambled. I mean, I saw a statistic the other night about long ball passes. In Pickford, for example, has twice as many long ball clearances passes than any other player in the tournament. Twice as many. So that says you something about how we're playing from the back. Our goalkeeper's got the longest passes. No, it just desperate at times. the semi-final was better because he did what I'd been dying to say, and he did it. People keep saying, oh, Foden and Bellingham can't play in the same team. What trait? They're good footballers, man. They're playing any bloody team. You know, they're playing a Sunday League team, never mind England team, and still do well. And he give Foden the freedom to do what he does for Manchester City. And with a little bit of luck, the lad would have had a hat-trick before half-time. I mean, that's how good he was. That's how outstanding he was in the first half. And what changed in the second half is that the Dutch manager stuck 2 people on him and stopped them playing. And that stopped us playing to some degree. And he stuck by Kane when all the statistics you look at, he spent more time in our penalty area than he did in the opposition penalty area. And that's our centre forward, really. When you could see when Ollie Watkins came on, the defenders were running for cover. When young Palmer came on, the 6 minutes that Anthony Gordon got, he made three passes in those 6 minutes. They're better than any of the others had done in the whole 85 minutes beforehand. And yet, where's he sitting? He's sitting in the corner of the dugout. No, and I can't see Southgate changing for the final either. Although I have to say, I've had a bit of a nightmare with the final, thinking about it, because I woke up with a start in the middle of the night. Spain 3, England 0, Joselu hat-trick. Oh, my God. What a fright that gave us. Yeah, we've got nothing to lose to having a go. And yes, Spain have got a great crop of young players. But I would argue we've got a crop of better young players, because somebody said it. A lot of our young players have got huge big game experience. How many European Cup finals has Foden played in? You know, doesn't Bellingham play in a cup final every week for bloody Real Madrid? You know,
just won the Champions League.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, if you're talking about experience of big games, we've got them and we've got the talent, but he won't put the shackles off and have a go. What I dread is that we do what we did against Italy, get an early goal and sit back and allow them to score 2, while we're sitting counting our money that never comes. I mean, it's just a nightmare. Yes, he'll get the credit for it, and he would deserve it as manager, but I've got to say, more by good luck than good management, as far as I'm concerned.
This team's got the experience of getting to this final, though.
Yes.
Albeit on home soil. So,
yes.
You know, and losing a final can sometimes motivate you to go on and win a final.
Well, absolutely, and why not? You know, it should, but I hesitate to go too far, because you worry about what the manager's thoughts are. No, I think it's a great opportunity for England to put things right in the Euros and serve up some good football. That first 30 minutes in the semi-final was some of the best football in any game, not just that game, in any game in the tournament. Let's have some more of that, but for 2 halves, please.
Let's have a prediction then, George.
Well, I got 2-1 right last night, so I'm going to go for 2-1 again this time.
2-1 England. Joe?
Yeah.
2-0 England.
2-0 England. Mitch?
England to win on penalties.
And Steve?
I'm going to go England 3, Spain 2, and I'm going to say that what the outcome will be is that Ratcliffe will say, you know what, let's go back for Gareth Southgate, and he'll start Tyne.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'm going to go again for another 1-1 in normal time. England to go 2-1 up in extra time and win it. So I'm going to go 2-1 in extra time. So yeah, England win. Let's hope we're right. Let's hope it is coming home. We're going to finish off with Elliot. Why doesn't Elton John eat lettuce? Because he's a rocket man.
Oh.
Fantastic, Elliot. Love it, son. Have a good weekend, everybody. Go on, Steve. You're going to say something.
I was just going to say what we've none of us have mentioned is that we win this, and then the next Euros come around, and it's back on whole soil again, and we go in as reigning champions. That would be something else, wouldn't it? You know, that would be quite a thing. And then you'd say, would Southgate still be there? I wonder.
Exactly.
You know,
So,
that's what football's about.
It is. Lots of food for thought. Have a good weekend, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show. Welcome back, Joe. Great to have you back amongst us. And
Yeah.
Great input as always. Thanks to George. Thanks to Mitch. Thanks to Steve. But thanks to you for watching. We'll be back live next Friday. Take care, everybody.
Cheers, everyone.
Good night, everybody.